Rose was a 15-year-old girl from Melbourne who thought her dad was joking when he told her to audition for a Korean record label. She had never danced professionally. She had never trained as a performer. She was just a quiet kid who sang in her church choir and taught herself guitar in her bedroom. The audition was in Sydney, hundreds of miles from home, for a company in a country she had never lived in an industry where the rejection rate is over 99%. She showed up anyway. She beat 700 other people, and within a decade she became one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, broke records no K-pop artist had ever touched, and earned Grammy nominations that redrew the line between Korean music and the Western mainstream forever. So how did an Australian church choir girl become the voice that shattered the wall between K-pop and the rest of the world? If you love stories about people who left everything behind to chase something nobody thought was possible, subscribe right now because we tell stories like this every single week. Behind the scenes, Rose's rise was not the overnight fairy tale it looks like from the outside. It was built on 4 years of brutal trainee life in a country where she barely spoke the language. On a debut that made her famous, but kept her locked inside the strictest system in pop music. And on a solo career that took nearly a decade to launch because the industry did not think the world was ready for a K-pop artist to cross over on her own terms. And once you understand what she went through to get here, you will never look at K-pop the same way again. Roseanne Park was born on February 11th, 1997 in Auckland, New Zealand, to Korean immigrant parents. Her father was a lawyer, her mother was a businesswoman. When she was 7, the family moved to Melbourne, Australia. She grew up in the suburbs, went to Canterbury Girls Secondary College, spoke English as her primary language, sang in her church choir every Sunday, taught herself piano and guitar by ear. On the surface, a completely normal childhood. A Korean Australian girl in Melbourne with no obvious path to global pop stardom. But her father saw something in her that she did not yet see in herself. Chapter 1, 700 to 1. In 2012, Rose's father noticed that YG Entertainment, one of South Korea's biggest record labels and the company behind Big Bang, was holding open auditions in Sydney. He told his daughter she should try out. She thought he was kidding. She had no professional training. She did not think a girl from Melbourne could become a K-pop star. But here is the crazy part. Her father convinced her, not because he thought she would win, because he wanted her to live with no regrets. Rose grabbed her acoustic guitar, traveled to Sydney, and sang Jason Mraz's I Won't Give Up. 700 people auditioned that day. She came first. And this is where things get strange. 2 months later, at 15, Rose dropped out of school, left her family, left Melbourne, and moved alone to Seoul to become a trainee at YG Entertainment. She barely spoke Korean. She had never trained as a dancer. She was thrown into one of the most demanding systems in music, where trainees practiced 12 to 16 hours a day with no guarantee of ever debuting. Most trainees wash out within a year. Rose stayed for 4. She learned Korean from scratch. She learned choreography with no prior dance background. She pushed through homesickness, isolation, and the constant pressure of knowing the company could send her home at any moment. Within her first year, before the world knew her name, she recorded a feature on a track by G-Dragon, one of the biggest stars in Korean music. Her voice was credited as a mystery vocalist. Nobody knew who she was, but those who heard it knew that voice was something different. Chapter 2, Blackpink. After 4 years of training, Rose was revealed as the final member of Blackpink. They debuted on August 8, 2016 with Boombaya and Whistle. Both songs exploded across Asia. Blackpink rose to become one of the best-selling girl groups in history. But what happened next shocked the entire industry. They broke into the Western market in a way no K-pop girl group had ever managed. They signed a global deal with Interscope Records. They headlined Coachella, the first K-pop girl group to do so. They collaborated with Lady Gaga on Sour Candy, with Selena Gomez on Ice Cream, and with Dua Lipa on Kiss and Makeup. Their music videos shattered every YouTube record in the genre. DDU Do 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 became the first video by a K-pop girl group to hit 1 billion views. How You Like That broke the record for most viewed YouTube premiere in history. But here is what made Rose stand out even within Blackpink. Her voice, that husky, emotional, completely distinctive soprano that critics called electric and fans called golden. She was not just another member, she was the emotional anchor. The one whose voice carried the ballads. The one who made you feel something different. The one who turned every live performance into something that hit deeper than choreography and spectacle. But she wanted more. She needed to prove she could stand completely on her own. Rose's most defining moment had nothing to do with Blackpink. It had to do with a solo career that almost never happened, and a collaboration that rewrote what a K-pop artist could achieve in the West. Chapter 3, Rosé. In March 2021, Rose released her solo debut single album, R. On the Ground sold 448,089 copies in its first week, the highest figure ever for a Korean female soloist. It topped the Billboard Global 200, making her the first artist in history to reach number 1 on that chart, both as a soloist and as part of a group. She became the first Korean female soloist to enter the UK singles chart. The music video broke the record for most views by a Korean solo artist in its first 24 hours. But Rose took things even further than anyone imagined. In late 2203, Blackpink's members chose not to renew individual contracts with YG, pursuing solo careers while keeping the group together for future projects. Rose signed with the Black label for management and Atlantic Records for her music. And then she did something that changed everything. She released APT. With Bruno Mars, the song became a global phenomenon, topping charts in dozens of countries. It earned 3 nominations at the 68th Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year and Song of the Year, making it the most Grammy-nominated song by any K-pop artist in history. Rose became the first K-pop artist ever to receive a Big 4 Grammy nomination as a lead artist. She earned 2 Guinness World Records for those nominations alone. At the 2026 Brit Awards, she won International Song of the Year, becoming the first K-pop artist in history to win at that ceremony. Her debut album, Rosé, made her the highest charting Korean female soloist in both the US and UK. Time named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2025. Rolling Stone named her one of 50 living icons from Australia and New Zealand. She became the global ambassador for Yves Saint Laurent and Tiffany & Co. Over 84 million Instagram followers, multiple Guinness World Records. And she was still just 28 years old. Rose did not become one of the biggest artists in the world by fitting into what the industry expected from a K-pop star. She became one of the biggest by proving that where you come from and what genre raised you do not have to define where you end up. The world told Roseanne Park that the distance between a church choir in Melbourne and a Grammy nomination was impossible to cross. She crossed it anyway. Not by abandoning who she was, but by carrying every part of herself, the Australian kid, the Korean trainee, the Blackpink vocalist, the solo artist, and letting all of it exist at the same time. And that is how a Korean Australian girl who thought her dad was joking broke every boundary between K-pop and Western music. If this story gave you chills, drop a like and subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. The next one is even crazier.